everybody, and welcome back to David's Marvelous Pigments. We're continuing our work here on the Wildspire Spellblades series and getting our Catfolk Artificer taken care of. Real fast, before we jump on into it, why don't you go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and if at any time you want to make a comment, go ahead and feel free to do that. It really helps me out to have an idea of what you guys are enjoying, what you're not, and if there's anyone you think might enjoy some of the painting here, or some of the talk about making backstories for characters and those kinds of things, go ahead and share the video with them as well. Let's jump on in and talk about our Catfolk Smith here. Oh, and by the way, names are one of the hardest things I have. One of the hardest things for me when I'm making any character or backstory. So go ahead and put into chat names that you think might be fitting for this guy. I don't have a good name for him yet, so I could use a little bit of help with that. Looking at this character, this Smith, or Artificer here, a couple of things kind of jumped out at me. He does not, to me, seem like he is a professional adventurer. So I wanted to make him look like he had been a smith or an artificer prior to his adventuring career. So kind of looking at him that way, I wanted to do a little bit of work, kind of make it look like he's taken some of his old blacksmithy work, gear, and tools, and converted them into his adventuring gear. Really got inspired by that sword of his that is primarily a wrench, or it looks like it was a wrench at one time, and he has converted that into his weapon, into a sword. So along with that, I figured the rest of his gear is going to work that same way. He doesn't have armor on. His leather armor that he is wearing is going to be converted from his apron that he used. His hammer there is probably his hammer that he used in the shop, and now that's been converted into his weapon. And because of that, he doesn't have like a helmet. He doesn't have good boots or anything like that. So we're going to try and make him look like he's taken his tools of his trade and has made that into his adventuring gear. As far as backstory goes, I'm thinking that this number of reasons could have caused this to happen. Either a family member, something's happened that his family has been harmed, and he wants to get revenge or rescue a child or family member that has been taken captive. Maybe someone took a family member captive and to try and get him to make something for him, and rather than doing that in the time that he has, he's going to go out and try and save his family from these people that have taken him. Initially, when I was looking at this guy, he looks very different than what I sort of standardly thought of when I think Catfolk. Normally when I think Catfolk, I picture maybe the Khajiit from the Elder Scrolls games. Sort of a tall, thin, lithe cat, whereas this character is a short, stout kind of cat, and looks more like Garfield than the Khajiit from the Elder Scrolls. And so initially I was thinking of doing him sort of an orange tabby cat look, but my daughter thought that a gray cat would look better. And after I was thinking about it, I kind of like that idea. He's not a young adventurer. He's an older guy who's getting into adventuring for the first time, and so his hair's gone gray maybe. And it gave me the opportunity to give him that sort of darker gray, maybe blackish gray mustache and chin hair around, kind of give him some of that little bit of an older look. And because he's not wasn't an adventurer to begin with. I thought I'd do his shirt sort of a dirty color. I was going to make it brown like the rest of it, but didn't really like that. So I waited for the brown on that shirt to dry so I could go over it with a white color, make it look more like that was just his business shirt that he had, and he's wearing his apron over it, and that's doubling as his leather armor for him. The nice thing about that was sort of a happy accident here, as Bob Ross would say, a little happy accident. That white, that brown color underneath the white here that you can see me doing now, made that white just look dirty. It's an old, dirty shirt that he is now just wearing as his underneath his old apron that has been kind of reinforced and made into his leather armor. Looking at him, the one thing I really like that kind of gives it that feel is that wrench. There's a movie from, I think, the 90s, or, yeah, it's got to be the 90s, maybe early 2000s, where there's a character who's, the beginning of the movie takes place on an oil rig. I think that might have been Armageddon, that one of those asteroid gonna hit Earth movies. And there's just a big guy who's got just a giant wrench that he uses on the oil rig. And I see this wrench here, kind of reminds me of that, but this wrench is no longer a tool. It is now a weapon. He's taken it, flipped it backwards, so that the wrench part is going to act kind of down there as the handle and counterweight, whereas what was the handle has now been sharpened into a blade. So on our smith here, our artificer, we have just a large sword being repurposed for, being made of a repurposed wrench. Excuse me. One thing as far as gameplay goes, if I was the DM, I would totally allow this, and if this was my character, I would request that perhaps the back end of this wrench could be used as a crowbar to try and break into things, like if I'm trying to either maybe break into a stronghold, I can latch onto something with the wrench and then try and pry it off, kind of similar to like what you might do with a crowbar. Because I know you can get crowbars in the game. It's one piece of gear you can get. Kind of flavorful for this character. I wanted him to look like he had gloves on, rather than just continue with some gray. Thought I'd go with green. Just didn't know. I wanted to give him a little splash of color there, so put some of that on there. As far as this hammer goes, it was looking very gray with it, so I darkened it with some darker gray, a little black in there, just to kind of make it look a little bit different, a little more of an accent color, not some of the same grays that I had for his hair. Now, on some of the detail work here on the rest of his clothes, I just wanted to kind of put a little bit of pop in there, because remember, this isn't adventuring clothes to begin with. It is his smith apron that he was wearing. So just kind of put a little bit of accents here and there. Some of the brushes I have, I don't have really small ones that can do a lot of detail work, but I have a little bit here. So just trying to add a little bit of pop into some of his gear. Now, I know you guys have seen me paint the bases a lot. I'm going to kind of skip that. You don't necessarily need to see me paint the base, so I'll skip that here, and we'll just get to the end results so you guys can see how he turned out once the paint had dried and I had gone ahead and sprayed some finish on there. Thank you so much. Again, go ahead, like and subscribe, and comment, put in the comments what you think this guy's name should be. Thanks.